TD Indigenous Banking outlines how capital and partnership can unlock the next great era of Indigenous business growth and community wealth building. TD teams continuously work to provide banking, financial, and investment services to meet the needs of Indigenous people, Indigenous businesses, organizations, and governments. TD Bank strives to be the bank of choice for Indigenous people in Canada. The TD Indigenous Banking Group works closely with commercial, wealth, wholesale, and retail businesses to provide solutions that meet the unique banking, financial, and investment needs of Indigenous people. Please welcome from TD Bank Indigenous Banking Group, the Senior Regional Manager in Ontario, Terry Kopanas.
Bonjour Kenoya, Ino Gabo and Dego, Muskasi Menezibing Nadonji, a tick totem. My name is Standing Eagle. I am Caribou Clan, and I'm from Big Grassy First Nation. First want to acknowledge the lands of Kitigan Zibi and the Shinabeg and the traditional territory of the Algonquin Nation. Also want to thank Joel Lamoureux and the NACA Forum organizing team for hosting a great gathering. So let's give them a round of applause there. So just to begin, I know not that new to the role now, but still like practicing my public speaking. So the role is getting me, up here a lot more than I've been used to. So my colleague was giving me some pointers about, maybe videotape yourself, practice, and see how you sound, see how you look. So I did my first run through, and I was looking at it, watching it, and it was like, I thought it was low energy, and I thought I was sleep talking. So hopefully I've improved since then. So I'll begin now. So it's a privilege and an honor to be among you today, and on behalf of TD Bank, to discuss how capital and partnership can unlock the next era of Indigenous business growth and community wealth building. I understand and recognize all of you have a story which has brought you here today. While preparing to discuss this topic, it brought back many memories for me, and I'd like to share a story with you. My dad, Fred Kopanas, owned an arcade store in my community, and so it had games, pool table, sold pop, chips, cigarettes, that kind of thing. And so by the time I was 10, I was a pretty good pool player, and I could finish a few of the games with 1 quarter, so I played lots. And so we traveled quite a bit to nearby powwows, ceremonies, and gatherings. And I noticed most communities had similar types of businesses. A few had gas stations as well. So looking back 40 years through a banker's mind, I noticed a few things. My dad was operating without a line of credit or a credit card. He would pay for everything with cash. And as a branch manager, I became reacquainted with some of my dad's suppliers. One man said after I introduced myself, "I remember Fred, always had a stack of cash." And I remember discussions between my parents about how he wanted to add a gas station, but didn't have the cash to purchase everything to do so. So when I look at this today, I could see the barriers and the inequities that existed for my dad. So the story, we never ended up having a gas station, so that never came to be for him. So today I have a better idea of how things work and how people access financing to achieve their business goals. As a banker, I've been able to assist my people with their needs to access financing, which has been fulfilling. The journey and story, as I continue to appreciate every day, continues. The fostering of economic growth for Indigenous peoples across Turtle Island. The NACA network of Indigenous financial institutions delivering capital and communities more than 50,000 loans, totaling more than $3.2 billion to First Nations, Inuit, and Métis businesses. This is truly partnership and prosperity. Across the country, Indigenous communities are not just participating in the economy, they are shaping it. Whether it's equity ownership in major infrastructure, clean energy leadership, housing development, or community-based enterprises, Indigenous nations are asserting jurisdiction and building generational wealth. This is where NACA and IFIs are indispensable. IFIs are not just lenders, they are relationship builders, risk translators, and community anchors. They understand the nuances of local economies, governance, and culture in ways that large financial institutions cannot replicate on their own. From TD's perspective, IFIs are not intermediaries, they are collaborators. And if we are serious about scaling Indigenous prosperity, then scaling IFIs must be a central strategy. For TD, collaborating isn't a transaction, it's a long-term relationship commitment. This means our long-term relationships with NACA and IFIs, co-developing solutions and aligning with Indigenous leadership on priorities like housing, infrastructure, and economic sovereignty. In our practice, we found that the most effective collaborations are those where risk is shared, value is co-created, and success is mutual. And the most importantly, where trust is built over time through consistency and accountability. So what does the next era of Indigenous business look like? It looks like Indigenous ownership in major projects, not as participants, but as leaders. Sorry, I was going to grab a drink of water. It looks like Indigenous ownership in major projects, not as participants, but as leaders, thriving local economies where small businesses scale into regional champions, housing solutions that are designed and financed by communities themselves, youth seeing entrepreneurship and finance as pathways to leadership and economic inclusion and well-being. Because Indigenous economic development has always been about more than profit, it's about community resilience, cultural continuity, and intergenerational prosperity. What will it take? To get there, we need scale that works, and IFIs are a proven model. We need to innovate in capital structures, bringing together private, public, and Indigenous capital in new ways. We need to move at the speed of trust, which sometimes means slowing down to build the right relationships, and we need to stay aligned across financial institutions, governments, and Indigenous organizations. In 2025, TD Securities advised Stone Lastic 8, a consortium of 36 BC First Nations, on acquiring a 12.5% interest in Enbridge's West Coast pipeline system for $736 million, supported by $400 million in government guaranteed bond financing. The first deal supported by Canada's Indigenous Loan Guarantee Program. TD also supported Wate Power LP, $15.2 million US to connect 17 First Nation communities in Northern Ontario to the provincial grid, reducing reliance on diesel. Construction completed in 2024, connecting 14,000 First Nation peoples and residents across Northwestern Ontario. Yeah. The work accomplished is remarkable and unique. Our goal is to link people, business, and philanthropy together to open doors to a more inclusive tomorrow, one where everyone has the chance to succeed and fully participate in what the future has to offer. Through TD Ready Commitment, the bank's corporate citizenship platform, we're committed and ready to build on the Indigenous Prosperity Foundation's work in supporting professional development and financial literacy workshops for solutions that create more equitable outcomes for all. And to this end, we've been working in collaboration with Indigenous communities for decades. This includes working closely with Indigenous peoples, governments, businesses, and individuals to help find banking solutions that help address their housing needs. A message of thanks to my colleagues in the room, partners, to and from our Indigenous banking group that take pride in our ability to serve and deliver the bank in communities where they are. Special thanks to acknowledge Shannon and Keith and the entire NACA board. We're committed to continuing this journey as your collaborator that listens first, adapts where needed, and above all, shows up consistently. As my dad's experience showed, unlocking the full potential of Indigenous economies is not a short-term effort. It must be generational work that requires all of us to move together. Miigwech.